Hello, hello. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods, and I'm the CEO and founder of Autism on Rocks IEP. And I help parents like you become the CEO of their IEP meeting. And that's exactly what I'm going to do outside of my big course very soon with my membership, where I'm going to teach everybody and anybody who wants to maybe switch careers or, just become an advocate because they love children and want to see what's best happen for them in the educational setting. And so pass this on to your friends, because I am going to be doing a membership where we're going to have weekly calls, and I'm going to train you how to kick ass in the IEP meeting. I'm not going to preach law to you. That's something you will learn along the way. I will support you and give you resources and tons of things that you can use that I use myself, and have taken hours and hours and hours of time creating. And you will be able to have it at your disposal so you can use it very quickly. And I'll show you how I do that. And you'll be able to take off and running. And I think it'll be a way for you to really become a kick-ass advocate, but also know what the hell to do in that meeting. All right. When you plop your butt in this chair and look at the computer, or if you physically go. I don't advise that, but you can do it if you want to. So I'm really excited about that. But today we're going to talk about executive functioning and ADHD, and some assessments that you really may want to stay away from when it comes to children with ADHD and executive functioning concerns. Now, hi, BB, how are you? Yes, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Tell us where you're from. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Also tell us where you're from. Okay? And make sure to share this, okay? And for those of you who are on the group, I am posting the link now. You'll see it scrolling as well at the bottom of the screen. And I am posting the link. So if you want to click the link so that I can see your little circle picture that's on Facebook and know when you're talking to me or asking a question. Hey, Bill, how are you? Okay. So executive functions and the impairment of it in ADHD. So first, if you don't know what executive functioning is, it's where the brain and the functions work together. All right. So basically, it's when the brain and the functions work together to help each person manage a task. Okay, now I'm going to say it my way. Okay, that's the jargon way. I'm going to say it my way. Okay. So see the person who posted and it says, hey, California 2 shared. Thank you. I only see like this circle here. I'm going to show you guys. So she's obviously in the group. All right. So that's what I see. See how in the picture I see nothing, but I can say, hey, California lady. But if you don't click the link that I just posted in the chat, then I won't be able to see who you are. So I like to greet my people. Okay. Makes sense? Okay. So organizing. So, let me tell you how I explain executive functioning is you want to look at it like you're the captain of a ship. Okay. And what does that captain have to do? He has to take charge. He has to make sure that everything is going right with that ship in order for it to get to its destination. Right. So all of these things have to happen in order for that ship to get to its destination. And that's what a child has to do in the educational setting, and figure out all these crazy little things that have to happen in order to get to the destination, whether that's finish a task, finish some work, take a test, whatever it is. Their functions have to be in tune in order to get that task or test or whatever it is done. Okay? So look at it as that. It's the captain of the ship, all right, where they're able to function across all settings and in all ways in the right way in order to get things done in the appropriate way. All right. Hi, Brittany. How are you? Yeah, I still don't know who that California person is. So go click that link, okay? So organizing, prioritizing, and activating to work. And that's activation. Focusing, sustaining, and shifting attention to tasks is focus. I'm looking at my notes. 3, regulating alertness, sustaining effort, and processing speed is number 3, and that's effort. And then you have managing functions and modulating emotions. Okay, that's a big one. And that is emotions. And so using working memory and accessing recall. Okay, that is memory. Monitoring and self-regulation, action. So that is action. There's 6 functions: activation, focus, effort, emotion, memory, and action. Okay. So when you see, hi, David, how are you? So when you see, okay, organizing, prioritizing, and activating to work, those types of things and assessments, remember that's an activation, okay, function. Focusing, sustaining, shifting, attention to task, that is focus issues. Regulating alertness, sustaining effort, and processing speed, that is effort. Managing functions and modulating emotions, okay, that is emotion. You have using working memory and assessing recall, that's that rapid recall, or you have short-term or long-term, there's different things. Same thing with processing speed, all right? Then you have monitoring and self-regulation and action, and that is the action. And one thing I found interesting is maybe if you're as old as me, okay, and you remember how when back in the day, okay, I'm 45, okay, was born in 77. And if you remember when we had gone to the doctor, or if we knew of people that had ADHD or whatnot, they were, it was mostly in boys, and because girls, like kind of like with autism, that didn't exist as much, I guess. It did, but it was just a misdiagnosis, or it was missed. And it would be where teachers would just say, oh, they're just hyper and impulsive and they just can't sit down. Okay. And, the behaviors would sometimes get worse. And, when they would go and get diagnosed, it was either with hyperkinesis or minimal brain damage. And so back in the 70s, and 80s, that was what was normal, and things have come and come about and just opened up to where, when my daughter 16 years ago was, okay, she's 16. So 14 years ago. Okay. It was the whole Jenny McCarthy kind of stage, and time. And she was diagnosed, at 2. So 13 years ago, it was 1 in 150 children born today were born with autism. And now it's what, 1 in 50, 1 in 55, which is crazy, right? So that is nuts, So in just a decade and a half, went from 1 in 150 to 1 in 55. 55 is when I last. If it's 50 now, I know someone said something about 50. I haven't looked it up in a while, but I remember it was 55 last year. So that's just crazy, and it's interesting because, you can look back and, even before I was born, it was, people just didn't know much about autism, or it wasn't even a word at that time. And things have just evolved and grown, and, things have just changed. But the focus the things that have gone on, the symptoms, if you will, what is expressed and shown in the educational setting has never changed. It's all been the same. It's just the words. And, now, and, I guess as of recent in the last several years, ADD is now falling under ADHD, which makes no sense to me. I don't know about you, but, ADD is more the focus, none of the hyperactivity, where the ADHD has the hyperactivity put into it. But that's actually not true anymore. Is ADHD does not mean you're hyper as in you can't sit down all the time. It does with some children, but in some it does not. It could be the mind can't shut down, or it could be physically they can't sit down and watch a movie or whatever. But there's so many different things that go into play with this now. And it's a good thing because now we're more aware and we're able to really focus in helping our kids and having that knowledge that can really expand a lot of the services and accommodations and modifications that go into our children's IEPs, because there's so much more out there that is able to put into play. And I call it the puzzle because for some reason, many people I find in IEP meetings, and many are all of the staff, not just teachers, it's everybody, and call me a nerd, but I love figuring out puzzles. And when I say puzzles, I don't mean the autistic puzzle. I mean, like I said last night, I mean puzzles as in, okay, this child has working memory issues. Does the child have written expression concerns? Does the child have reading concerns? Does the child have math concerns? I start looking at all the different aspects of the child so that I can really pinpoint certain areas that either may still need to be evaluated or that are causing one thing or another, or together are causing a big problem in whole, that somebody is missing because that child isn't having the right accommodations, or the child doesn't have BIP, or certain things are not in play. I was in a meeting today with a superintendent, autism coordinator, I think is what she called herself, a BCBA, and who was the other person? I think it was the principal. Pretty bad. All right. So 5-year-old, 6-year-old, was suspended, and all of the behaviors are typical autistic behaviors. For no reason should he have been suspended, because all of why he was suspended was a manifestation of his disability, which makes it a reason that he cannot be suspended. He cannot be expelled. Okay? And what's even more beautiful is on recording today, the BCBA said just as much, as did the autism coordinator, and that it was a manifestation of his disability. And, I don't believe that they thought that I would get as hard on them as I did. The superintendent I saw shake his head how outright I was many times. And, he did not step in until I went after the BCBA, and I held her accountable for not requesting an FBA, because the child does have behavior issues and he does need a BIP, and not once was an FBA requested. And then, he started at the school in July of 2021 and then to present. And he has been asked to go home multiple times early. Mom's called for things like getting out of his seat, throwing paper. He has kicked. But we're not talking about off the chain. It just says kicking, Are those things okay? No, but he has autism. He's a little boy. He needs to be taught with a behavior plan how to replace that negative behavior of kicking and make it a positive. If he has to go and kick a pillow for 15 minutes, then that's what they need to let him do. And do you know the BCBA, she and the autism coordinator, do you know what they said? Well, the only reinforcer is food. Well, number one, you don't ever make food the reinforcer. It can be a treat, but you never make food a reinforcer. Okay. Now, can every once in a while it be goldfish, or can it be, a piece of candy or whatever? Sure. But, you don't want to keep feeding a child because they're doing something good. I mean, they're going to learn to do something good all the time and eat all the time. You just can't do that. And the BCBA had nothing to say. Why didn't you do and suggest an FBA? Well, I've been working with him. I've been creating some plans. I've been this. And my plan was to request a BIP or an FBA and do an FBA. But I work with him all the time and I'm unable to take that data. What? Like, what she said was so bogus to me. I didn't even know how to wrap my head around it. If you're working with him, that's the best time to take data. Are you saying teachers aren't taking data? Which some of them are. When they're in the classroom teaching other kids too. But you're working one-on-one with him and you're telling me you can't take data? Is something wrong with you? Something happened to your hands that you can't write data? Because you sure as hell can write an email. What happened? Why? They all of a sudden send a list of things that he did today, which I already knew because mom had taken notes. And they had nothing. Not a damn thing. If you're not going to make documentation every time you're sending that child home, you're not doing an incident report, you're not keeping data, all right, but you want to sit and bitch about behaviors that you're not taking data on, that you haven't recommended an FBA that must be done if the child has and is showing behaviors that impact his education, then you want to suspend him because he was squirming and threw his head back and it hit the para, which sucks. Okay, she didn't deserve that. But at the same time, I kind of this is what I said. I said it's like holding my puppy. He's squirming and whatever to get down. I don't want to be held. I want to get down. Let me down. It's like a baby who is on the move and crawling. They want down. And so that behavior occurred, and it wasn't a malicious intent. He wanted to not be held. He has sensory issues. So it is what it is. There was no they did not give a reason. Oh, we were holding him because. It wasn't like that. It was she was holding him and that's what he did. So they suspended him from that. And then when I talked to him on the phone, that's what they said he did. On the paperwork, they put he was a harm to himself and others. Don't lie. Anyway, I took him to the cleaners and I said, so here's what we're going to do. You're not suspending him. Okay. Because do whatever you got to do, but you're not going to win that one. Y'all don't have any paperwork. You have no data, no documentation, nothing. So we're going to have an IEP. You guys have to have an annual anyway. Then we're going to talk about all the evaluations that you need to provide to him, including the FBA. And we are going to make sure that we get a really good BIP put in place. And this BCBA is not going to do the FBA. I don't think that would be wise. And then we're going to give him a good 90 days with a real good solid BIP after you have trained every last staff member how to implement that BIP. And then in 90 days, we'll meet and we'll have a discussion on how he's doing or how you need to tweak his BIP in order to serve him in an appropriate way. That's what we're going to do. But if you guys want to proceed and try to change placement because you feel that you can't handle him with no documentation, no data, okay? Nothing. Zero. Okay? And then you have multiple, because you said you have multiple BCBAs in your district. He's in an autism classroom, but you can't handle him. His behaviors are not off the chain. They are typical autistic behaviors when a child with autism has behaviors. These are very typical. I hear of them all the time with school districts dealing with them all the time. Okay? They're not getting rid of the child because of these types of behaviors. Not these. Okay? And we're not changing placement because you all have not done everything within your power or in accordance to IDEA to the maximum extent possible to serve him, to do whatever it takes in order to keep him in a more, in a less restrictive environment. And they ended the meeting speechless. That I don't think they were expecting that. I mean, maybe other advocates don't know what they're talking about when they go in and do that. I don't know. I don't know what they were expecting. But you don't come with the data and you don't come with the documentation. Don't talk to me about what it is you think you're going to do, because he's coming back to school in 4 days since you suspended him in 5 days. And if I see you playing that game of continuing to suspend him, I'm going to take you right to the feds, to OCR. It's called discrimination. And I said, in all actuality, you sending him home early is an ADA issue and a 504 violation, along with a denial of FAPE. So do what it is that you think is right. We'll see you on the 18th at the IEP meeting. Okay. So now we're going to talk about diagnostics, so assessments and tests that are probably, hi Erin, how are you? Have a friend that her boys used to bite, so they gave him a pillow. So when he felt the need to bite, he would go to a space in the classroom with his pillow. Karen, my grandson, hey Carolina, my grandson has speech IEP in Delaware for speech. He also has ADHD, which they did a 504 plan. Why can't it be added to his IEP as other impairments? It can. 100%. He's diagnosed with ADHD, Karen? Also, he was just diagnosed with autism, speech. Well, girl, get all of that put into the IEP. Hi, Karina. How are you? Welcome. Also, I'd like to learn how to get a membership to the group. Thanks so much. Yeah, you can join my group for free. That's already out. But the group where I'm going to teach parents, teachers, whoever, people that just want to change careers, whatever, how to become kick-ass advocates in the IEP meeting and understand all of the dynamics and all of the things, just like yesterday when I was talking about, and the things that, you kind of have to do and wait out in order to make things happen. All right. And it's kind of like a formula. And so it's interesting. It's enlightening. It's all of the above and then some. Okay. But it's something that obviously as parents and caregivers and whoever wants to advocate for their children, it's imperative. You have to know it. Okay, so ADHD is an inherited problem in the electrochemical signaling of the brain's self-management system. And the 3 assessments that you want to be careful of, I'm not saying you don't want them, but you cannot take everything about what their results are as if it's something you just got to run with. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. So SPECT brain imaging, okay, That obviously isn't done in the school, but I'm giving you all of them. And it's a radioactive process, uses 3D image, blood flow, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's not going to be very productive. And the reason it's not, and sorry, I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes. Not that good. Can't memorize it like that. And the SPECT imaging is good for assessing certain kinds of functioning of the brain and other organs. And it's really good for children who have had brain damage. Okay, but not ADHD. All right. Computer games. So where they have to respond quickly, like with a flash on the screen, different things like that. Those assessments are not ideal for children with ADHD. And it's because it's one of those things where they have to quickly and accurately respond. And it's not something that's typically going to, be something that they come across on a daily basis. And it's not going to be very beneficial to the child. Okay. And the third one, which does impact you in a major way, is the neuropsychological testing, the one I push all the time. But here's the thing, okay, is, the puzzles, all right, that are administered. Those are the ones that you want to, be very cautious of. When you have 2 to 4 hours of testing, where they're having to figure out different puzzles, lists of words, sentences, remembering those lists of words, naming colors, various designs, series of cards, specific directions, putting pegs into a board. That's, really actually goes a lot with the cognitive. But the thing that you have to remember is these tests do not adequately predict how their brain is working. All right. And it also does not predict how they are moving forward in their daily life or how that's going to affect them in their daily life, because the results are going to be skewed in some way, shape, or form. So you have to kind of be able to dissect really well what the results are, what they mean, how big of impact they really are going to be, and then looking at the whole of the child at the moment and what's going on as of recent to be able to figure out the true problems. All right. But, I was speaking to a Texas, and I mentioned this, I believe, yesterday, doctor in psychology, but she's also created many different assessments, believe it or not. And I was hesitant in speaking with her because I had questioned this Texas district on their assessments, because I know my assessments with the back of my hand, and they only provided 2 different results, which was a scaled score and shit, I don't even remember the second one now because I was so mad I stopped listening. And I told them that. I said, I don't even care what you have anymore. You didn't do the assessments right. I don't give a shit. Well, I'll talk to the parent. We'll get an IEE, whatever it is we got to do. I said, these aren't right. And so you're either going to provide me with all of the scoring, or we're getting an IE because this is shit. And so the lawyer said, well, we can, have a sit down with our, doctor in psychology. She's, done all of these, tests, and she trains everybody, and she has created and been assisted in creating, multiple different assessments. So, and it's true. I had her information. And so it was kind of like, have you ever gone into something and you're just like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do it. But you just kind of went into it with like a shit attitude. I did that. I admit it. And she turned it around. And I said that to her. All right. And I said to her, thank you for doing this, but that's not how it was said to me in the meeting, and the lady the diagnostician who was in the meeting, who did the test, was there. And, she provided this doctor provided all of the testing scoring, and there's a lot. All right. I got a picture. Maybe you guys can see it. Maybe you can't. I got to make sure the student's name is off of it. So let me see real quick. Okay. Name is off of it. All right. Hold on, let me turn this off. Okay. Can you see it? Oh, all right, there we go. Oh, I know it's like the lighting and stuff, guys. Sorry. Can you see it at all? Tell me if you can see it or not. If you can't, then I'll like post it or whatever. But I know the light is like all funky. Here, I'll just post it. I'll post it, y'all, because his name's not on there or anything. So, on this one. Yeah, so I'll post it. But let me tell you. So, it has the subtest raw scores. It has the sum of subtest standard scores, so your SS, your standard scores, your confidence interval, the percentage rate, the descriptive category, the age equivalent, and the GSV. And in the assessment, the diagnostician only put 2, and you can't see it. Okay, I'll post it. And no, that didn't tell me anything. And you know, the big thing is the main problem with these 3 tests is that they try, and you guys go outside and get IEEs and other things. So it's good to know, or even at least ask the questions about the SPECT in all caps brain imaging, and then the computer games, which is, you know, the quick signals and flashing of the screen and things like that. Neuropsychological is the, you know, like the pegs and the, you know, how quickly and accurately a person responds and remembers a list of words or remembers colors or shapes or whatever. A lot of the assessments that are done today, it's not the ones with reading or anything like that, but it's the ones where they're asked and they have to say A or B kind of thing. And the recalls being measured, and the processing is a big one of how quickly they're processing different things. And, you know, the biggest problem is trying to measure how their brain's functioning in that brief, very specific moment. And is that really going to pertain to their everyday life? You know, that type of test. Okay, that doesn't mean they don't have recall issues. It means that that type of test is more than likely not the best measurement of that concern and that need. Okay, so telling them to quickly pick 2 pictures within 5 seconds is not going to really tell you a whole lot about their recall of everyday things. All right, and how it's going to impact them on the everyday, on the daily. And I found this really interesting. And, you know, it's talking about situations and the functioning and daily living. All right. So those types of tests need to, you know, eventually be tweaked, which is why I love the Wyatt right now, because that 4, I love it because it gives 5 additional subtests that are just genius. All right. The Wyatt 3 is shit compared to the Wyatt 4. Okay. So if you're still being given the Wyatt 3, go yell at those people, because the Wyatt 3 can only be given now if a form is filled out. Okay. And I don't know what the form is called or anything like that, but it's a form that has to be filled out because the Wyatt 4 is now out, and it's awesome. And the 5 subtests hit every single area, in my opinion, of the reading focuses that you need to know about in why your child may be struggling with reading. It's great, okay, if done right and done with fidelity. All right. So exercising the executive functioning in the brain and getting that moving and ensuring that that is strong is the number one way to be able to steer the child in the right direction, just like that captain of the ship. All right, your child's the captain of their brain and how their brain's functioning and which route it goes. And if that child gets to their destination. And so executive functioning is everything that happens in our life, in our world. All right, you guys can't see my desk. Well, I could actually pick up my camera and show it to you, but I'm not. And how that child is coping, and their coping mechanisms could be strong, which is why some children are said, oh, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine. They don't have any behaviors. They're fine, they're fine, they're fine, because they're able to cope well. Or some children learn really quick how to compensate. Some children learn how to memorize. Okay. These are all coping mechanisms that are getting them by, even though they're still struggling. Okay. And that is a big deal because they're going to truly struggle as they keep going up in grade, and it's going to become too much for them. Okay. So, and that stress and that anxiety that you hear a lot of with students with ADHD is, and the heightened anxiety level because they didn't finish a task or they didn't finish something on time or whatever the case may be. And once they get to high school, especially if they're in gen ed and they're able to be part of the gen ed classroom, but they're still struggling and maybe they're still behind in a lot of ways, that's somewhat ignored, and the expectation is yet still there. And so there's even more stress on them. I mean, the stress on students in high school is unreal. But now you have your child with special needs in high school that if their functioning is higher and they're able to be in a more least restrictive environment and in gen ed, then we need to really pay attention to how it is that they're doing and what their anxiety level is and where their functioning is. I have a student that I just had to ream out a school district for putting her in Algebra 2 when she's in 4th grade math. Shit, I don't even know Algebra 2. Put me in Algebra 2 class, I'd fail. I don't even know how to do algebra anymore. No clue. I was horrible in math. I will admit it. I was horrible. I don't know how I got through my 2 master's degrees. I had to take statistics and another class called, what was it called? I'll think of it in a minute. It was another math class. I mean, I got by the skin of my teeth. How do you say it? Skin of my teeth? How do you say it? My husband says I'm so bad at analogies. I'm really bad. But at least I crack myself up doing it, right? So you have to really pay attention to this. You know, I'm talking like lower. Can you tell? It's funny because I'm normally higher, because it's still a bit of a puzzle, and it's always going to be something that's growing and always something that we're going to learn more of, because the do's and don'ts when it comes to ADHD and helping the children function better is always going to be ongoing, and it's always going to be something we're learning and always going to be something that's expanding, because more and more science and knowledge and all of these things happen, and then of course newer things are tried, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not, but at the same time, you know, the world is always expanding and we just have to grow with it. But sometimes, y'all, old school and back in the day things are better than what's happening today. Depends on what you're looking at. So you really want to ask questions, okay? in your IEP meetings, when you're going through assessments, please ask questions, okay? Of anything that drives me batshit crazy is when I'm in an assessment or going through an assessment with a district. And all I hear, and this is what happened the other day, so I flipped shit because okay, we don't need an IEP then, is what I said. Average. And they would talk fast. I have to tell them to, okay, slow down because my brain can't go that fast. I cannot go that fast. Y'all need to slow down. If you need to read word for word, I'm joking, but come on now. Don't speed read. All right. And they do that on purpose because they want to get through it. And parents are not going to be able to follow. And I'm already focused on my questions, but I want them to hear themselves talk. Okay, there's a tip for you. When you're going over evaluations, have the person who did that evaluation, number one, be the person to read that part of the evaluation. All right. Number two, you want to sometimes that's hard with IEs though, just so you know. Okay, unless they're willing to show up. Number two is when they read it, they're going to say, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'm going to, read the highlights. No, ma'am, can you please read it word for word? Yeah. I want them to hear it. When they're reading out loud, they're processing what they wrote. You want them to do that. You want them to catch their own mistakes. So when I bring them up, they've already caught their own mistake, more than likely. Okay? Think about when you do work or if you've done something or you wrote something. I never send something right away because I like to proofread. I'm a horrible speller. Okay? Horrible. But I guess that's what spelling's for, the spell check. But when it comes to how it flows, I'm a bit picky about that. I'll move things around, that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, does it have to be perfect? No. But I like things to somewhat flow. And I like things to be reflective of what my point is. And I like things to tell a story. And I like things to be impactful. All right. If I'm going to send it, better be impactful. I better get something done from sending that. I better not have wasted my time. All right. And if I did waste my time, then I get real mad and I send another one and I do make sure. So I make sure it gets done. So just keep in mind that you need to ask a lot of questions. Have them read it. All right. Because as they read it, even though you've read that evaluation, just like I did, you can find something new every time. Just like I showed you yesterday, that 2 pages that I had gone over a child's evaluation and saw how they didn't change the PLAF like they said they would. And I found a ton more things that wasn't put into the present levels. So just because you read it and think that it's fine, no, read it again and then read it probably 2 more times. I would say 4 times. If you're going through your child's IEP, read that 4 times too, 5 or 6 even, at different times when your brain's not fried. All right. Or if say your IEP is 30 pages, well, read like 5 at a time, 5 pages, then go do something for a couple hours, then 5 more pages, or read those 5 pages again, just to get that part through your head, because you're going to find something every single time. And these are the little things that you can do to make a whole hell of a lot of difference and not miss those little things that can make or break educational success. And I've seen it. And parents are like, oh my God, I missed that. I didn't see it. I remember seeing it and I forgot to have them take it out. And, I hear those things all the time. And it's something that is very impactful, but it's something that's easy to miss. And even in present levels, you have to watch the verbiage because you will be held accountable for it. You will be. Okay. And if that means you're going to be held accountable because you want to hold the school accountable for not, addressing X, Y, and Z issues that your child has that's in their evaluations, but they're not put into the present levels as a need, and then goals aren't developed based on their needs. Not that you have to put all of what's in the present levels or everything into the present levels, but you want to put most into the present levels, and you want to create the most important goals off of those needs from the present levels. I love teaching the present levels and goals. And, it is going to be my next course that is almost done as well with the membership. It's taken a lot longer than I thought, but I am very OCD when it comes to my stuff. And, Rock the IEP, my biggest course, has gotten nothing but raves and reviews and works. But at the same time, if I'm going to create something, I'm going to make sure that it's going to work. And then it's going to give people the knowledge that they need in order to have results. Now, why I'm doing the membership is because in my Rock the IEP, or even in the present levels course that I'm going to have going, you're learning all the important things of what to do. All right. And what's allowed, what's not allowed, how the IEP from beginning to end in my course, Rock the IEP, but what is not taught. All right. So then you're going to be great at the IEP process. You're going to be great at the, present levels and goals. And again, as you do things, you learn more and more. You got to get out there and do it at that point in the IEP. But the thing is you're going to fall on your face many times, and then you got to just get back up and go change it. And so that's why I decided, all right, let me teach them what I do in the IEP. Not just teach them the laws and all the basics of the IEP, which is done in the courses. I don't have to do that again. But what I haven't taught, and what a lot of people are not doing, is teaching people how to go into that IEP, whether it's online or in person, and kicking some damn ass, and knowing how to be quick on your toes, or your mouth, I should say. Okay. Everything that people say in an IEP meeting, I'm waiting for that red flag. I'm waiting for that. What are they gonna give me that's going to trigger an issue I already know is going on? I've always got an agenda in my head of what I want, why I want it, and how I'm gonna get it. And many times they allow me to do that on a silver platter, but at the same time, it doesn't always happen right away. So they build that silver platter, right, Kim and Bill? That silver platter is like put together in squares or triangles. All right. So you got your plate and you got it together. So sometimes, all right, it happens with a slower process, like we talked about yesterday. And sometimes it happens very quickly. All right. And like I said, it all depends on that damn team. All right. Yeah, you're part of that team too. But you're kind of that like attached piece to that team. Where you're a little bit separated, which is just true. That's just facts, right? And you just have to be mindful that, until you get that quickness, that there has to be a lot of thought put into what's done, said. And the last thing you want, which happens all the time, but you need to be able to admit to yourself that that's when you need an advocate. That's when you need an attorney. I mean, whoever, when the school district thinks you're a joke, I'm just going to keep it real. When they think you're a joke and you feel, I know my stuff. I know this. I keep telling them. And they ain't listening to you. That means they think you're full of shit, that you don't know your shit. And that I'm telling you now, you need to wake up and think and know that they think you're full of shit. They think you're a joke. And they're not going to listen to you. The disconnect is gone. All right. So for all those parents who've called me I've told them that. And they're like, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's exactly what it is. Because they're telling me everything that they know. And they do. They actually do know. But it's not being delivered in the right way in the meeting. And the district thinks they're a joke. And it's very frustrating to parents because, like, I know my stuff. I know my kid better than you do. You know, you don't know my kid at all compared to how I know my child. And I get it. I feel the same way. Don't you dare tell me about my kid. I already know this stuff. But you are there for the educational piece. I need data. I need you to tell me what's going on. I need you to be forthcoming. I need you to be transparent. But you're not getting that. So there's this like head banging thing going on. And so you have to hold people accountable. When people are held accountable, typically they don't do it again. So you have to come out of that shell, some of you, and just have that attitude. You know, I've said that before. When you go into an IEP meeting, you got to put on that face. Sometimes I feel like such an ass for saying certain things that I do, but I'm like, you know, after the fact, I say, it's true. I mean, what am I going to tell people other than the truth? I mean, anybody that says that you're going into an IEP meeting and you're going to just all get along and you're going to advocate and you're going to, you know, just have this conversation that just flows from the get-go, you're sadly mistaken. And, you know, that, you know, they're going to just do what you want them to do. Now, you will have that when they're full of shit and you're buying it. Now, that's when you'll get along. That's when you'll collaborate, so to speak. They're not collaborating, but you think you are. What you have to remember is there is a perfection in what people do to make it look like it's your idea, but it's what they want. And you all fall for it. Happens all the time. Oh, you know, you want this, and this, and these are the things that he's working on. And, you know, what do you think would be a good goal? Do you think, you know, this is a good goal on him counting, you know, to this, and this? And you have no idea that the goal is suck shit. But what you see is that he's counting and that he's going to count to 4 or whatever. All right. But many parents are not understanding that measuring part and the clarity that has to be put into it and how data will be taken and all of these different things. And I'm finding many parents to be so frustrated. And it's unfortunate because can't post comments in some destinations. Okay. I don't know about other states, but New York is going to lower the learning standards. That's their fix for the time the kids lost and didn't learn much of anything because of COVID and online learning. Ugh, that's not good. When's that happening? That's horrible. Because they should have been doing what they were supposed to do during COVID. Then we wouldn't be in that mess. I mean, granted, they needed time to get it together and, you know, get everything set up, but still. You know? It's just ridiculous. Who has questions? Anybody? Anybody have questions? Count to 10 backward. He told me it cannot be added to his IEP because it doesn't affect his learning when medicated. Do you know how stupid that sounds, Karen? All right. So Karen says that the disabilities that her grandson has been diagnosed with can't be added to the IEP because it doesn't affect his learning when medicated. What the fuck? Oh, God. I mean, if I could just be a fly on the wall when some of these things are said, I mean, what the hell? I mean, you need to like take a picture right here, take a picture and post that on their freaking website on Facebook. I mean, what is this? It doesn't affect his learning. ADHD doesn't affect his learning. That would be a first. That would be a first. Tell them to prove it. Prove to me that it doesn't affect his learning. And what the hell does him being medicated have anything to do with their business? Even if they're giving him the medication during the day, that is none of their damn business. That I will tell you guys that right now. It is none of the school's business if your child is on medication. The only person that needs to know about that is typically the nurse or the teacher, okay? But in regards to reflecting it or deflecting it or the situation based on medication, no, no, no. They are not doctors. They do not get to make that statement. It doesn't affect his learning when medicated. Who the hell are you? Who said that? Hopefully a doctor, because I mean, I couldn't answer what a medication does. I can tell you what it does in regards to looking it up like everybody else, but I'm not a doctor. I ain't going to comment on what the medication does. I mean, everybody reacts to medication differently. Shit. Take myself, for example. You put me on medication, I got every side effect there is other than the heart attack or something that's going to kill you. So I get them all. Every single last one. If there's a side effect on there, Raven gets it. That is one thing I learned. Stomach issues. I mean, everything. So say the one big one is like a heart attack. Okay, that's the one that'll pass me by. But I'll get everything else. And you may take the same medicine and get nothing. So who is this person that's saying they told me it cannot be added? All these diagnoses can be added to his IEP. Now, having 50 million diagnosis as what his category is, I would have picked the speech, the ADHD, and hold on, where's the other one? Speech, ADHD, and LD is probably what I would. So it would be autism. No, autism. So autism, speech and language impairment, ADHD. Is ADHD there? Yeah. So OHI, autism, speech language impairment, and SLD. So specific learning disability, autism, speech language impairment would be the three I put as the categories, and everything else I would put into the present levels and into the PWN. That's what I would do. The autosomal chromosomal disorder, I would even put that into a medical section. And, you know, like the OCD and, you know, the articulation disorder, that goes kind of hand in hand with speech. And so it really could say SLD/articulation, you know. So it's one of those things where you can kind of play with that. But in no way can they not put it down in the IEP. Now, as a disability category, I would limit it to 3, would be my thoughts. But as far as everything being put into the IEP, so it's all known, then I would put it all. And I would even have them make a comment as to, we're putting 3 as a disability categories, but in no way does that mean these categories are any more important than the other diagnoses, because none of y'all know which one's affecting him, when, how, and where. Okay, when, how, and where. Unless they can answer that, which they can't, then they have no business talking about a child and medication and learning. You do not know. They do not know that. That stuff pisses me off. All right, is this like person a hacker person? I'm trying to find a law that says it can. What can, Karen? These districts are so annoying. And they're telling me educational autism. There's no such thing as educational autism. What the fuck? Show me. Somebody show me. Just show me. Where the hell there's an educational autism? Tell me. Show me. Show me where it's at. Is there a psychologist watching here? Tell me what educational autism. I mean, autism is a diagnosis. Okay. The ADHD put on the law, IEP law. What? What do you mean by that? I'm going to read this to you. What do you mean by that? I'm going to read this to you, okay? You listening? You listening? What is educational? And this is from a psychologist. Okay, I'm not reading out my butt. All right, I don't believe everything on Google. Google can be full of shit and everybody's opinion and their mother's opinion and everybody else under the sun. All right, everybody can put the damn opinion on Google. All right, this is a neurodevelopmental psychologist. What is educational autism? Autism spectrum disorders, education, learning. Recently, I've been hearing the term educational autism. Share this, guys. Share this. All right, floating around. It has been used by parents, school professionals, and other clinicians. I've been telling you guys there's no such damn thing as educational autism. You either got autism or you don't. You have ADHD or you don't. You have OCD or you don't. You have a speech and language disorder or you don't. You don't have you don't have home autism. What's home autism? Is there home autism out there? Home autism, outside autism, educational autism, Chuck E. Cheese autism, Disney World autism. What else? At Aaron's house, autism. At Carolina's house, autism. At Raven's house, autism. There's all kinds of autisms out there. God. All right. The use of educational autism has been floating around by parents, school professionals, and other clinicians. Most often, there is a confusion surrounding the term and no one knows what it means. The reason for such confusion is that educational autism is not really a thing. My best understanding of the term is that it is a way to describe someone who meets the educational classification for autism as defined by IDEA. The person may or may not have an actual diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, though they are very likely to, given the similarities between the criteria. However, what's important to clarify is the differences between educational classification and diagnoses. IDEA is a federal law that governs the education services. It includes 13 disability categories and whether you are diagnosed with them, also referred to as educational classifications. In order to be eligible for special education and related services, a child must meet the criteria for at least one of these special educational categories and show educational need. and more than likely, they have already been diagnosed with one of these categories. IDEA defines autism as a developmental disability significantly affecting verbal and nonverbal communication and social interaction, generally evident before age 3, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Other characteristics often associated with autism are engagement in repetitive activities and stereotype movements, resistance to environmental change or changes in daily routine, and unusual responses to sensory experiences. IDEA section 300.8. In contrast, medical professionals such as psychologists, pediatricians, developmental behavior pediatricians, and psychiatrists make a diagnosis using the criteria in the DSM-5. Okay? Basically, she's going on saying, so why make this distinction of educational autism? In all likelihood, the reason that they're making this distinction, is what she's saying, is about the impact of disability within the educational setting. So they're basically coming up with this wording of educational autism based on the impact of disability of what they are saying that they're seeing the child exhibit in the educational setting, and then calling it educational autism as if they only act that way in school. It just doesn't make sense. Okay. So yes, they're in the educational setting. Yes, an IEP has to do with the child in the educational setting. However, their diagnoses still have to be in the IEP, and their diagnoses are typically what they are, or their disability category is what typically is their diagnosis. All right. Very rarely is a category, one of the 13 categories, picked when the child hasn't been diagnosed with it. Very rarely. Very rarely. So they can make distinctions all they want, but 99% of the time, the child's already been diagnosed with one of these categories, in which makes up their educational and disability area, if you will. Yeah, I can. Lord knows we got autism.
Are you on the live?
Have
a good night. See you tomorrow morning.
You going to bed?
Yeah. I'm going to take a shower first and then go back.
Okay. The ADHD put on the tell me what you mean by that. ADHD put on the IEP law. I don't understand what that means. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. And I don't know who this Alice is, but I'm going to delete your stuff because I don't even know what you're saying. Maybe you're a hacker. I'm going to put you in timeout. I love how it says you can put somebody in timeout. It's so funny. I'm going to start putting all y'all in timeout. That's so funny. Okay. All right. Anybody have questions? This guy just turned on the shower. Sorry. What do you guys got? What do you have? You know what I can do right now? I can do a Q&A from the group. Normally I go on the group and do that. Let me see if there's a bunch of questions. Or maybe I'll do that tomorrow. All right, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. All right. So tomorrow I'm going to go live. It's going to be in the afternoon. And I'm going to go live and I'm going to talk about all of your questions from the group. All right. Each state has their own checklist, but they all should be the same. I mean, they're probably not. They're probably, a little bit different, I'm sure. But honestly, I don't give a shit what their checklist says. You know, you need to get your kid. I put that responsibility on y'all. You're going to get your child diagnosed. All right? They're not diagnosing your kid. They don't even have the ability to diagnose. So the last thing I want, I don't know about you, but I don't want some school psychologist that, you know, telling me about my child. Oh, it's this, it's that. No. And one of the things I've noticed recently is a lot of districts are not hiring the right people. So, like, there's a school in New York, well, two schools in New York that I'm working with. One's in the Bronx, and the other one is, what's the other one? I forgot. I think the city. Yeah. So, yeah, one's the Bronx, one's the city. And one of them has a psychologist with a certificate, whatever the hell that is. I looked it up, and I'm still trying to figure it out. She doesn't have a PhD. She's not a diagnostician, which they're trained to do assessments. She's a certificate psychologist, school psychologist. I don't remember how did it say? Certificate psychologist or some shit. And then another one is an audiologist at the other school. School's like, she's an audiologist, blah, blah, blah. Both people have to have PhDs. Both. Okay, no, this one is just a speech and language pathologist with her master's with a certificate in audiology. It's like, you know what, y'all? If you're going to tell us to go to these people and that they're within your school district, at least tell us the truth in who they are. That would be nice. And that's one thing I've paid more attention to lately, because y'all are missing it. You need to not miss it. Look at their signatures at the bottom of their emails. Figure out who they are and what they do. Okay? Because this audiologist, her signature I saw today, and I sent Mom, because I have my favorite psychologist and favorite audiologist in New York. And I have a really good psychologist. And I have a really good psychologist in California. And I have a really good psychologist here. But you need to find good psychologists. If you're going to get your child diagnosed and you're going to have really good evaluations, you need to make sure you go to the right people, and it's worth the drive. Time out for administration. That's funny. They sure try to do it to advocates. Kind of funny. Myself and Karen, the special education boss, have done TikToks on that where they're trying to mute us. Mute. And the thing is, on Zoom, you can't keep somebody on mute. So I just keep unmuting myself and tell them, don't do that again. You're like removing the parents' right to an advocate. It pisses me the hell off. And then it pisses them off that they can't mute you. It's a mess. God, it's a mess sometimes. So stupid. I was just curious if it's either. No. But I mean, if you're, oh no. I mean, the thing, what did Karen say? She was called the other day. It's so funny. Like, she was called like a bat something. I had to laugh at that one. That was funny. I mean, The worst I've been called is combative. Combative. I'm not combative. I'm aggressive, but I'm not combative. I mean, just because I'll, take you to the cleaners doesn't mean I'm combative. It just means that y'all are being idiots and I'm not going to put up with it. I mean, call it what you will. I don't care what you call it. Call it what you want. I mean, take a look at the attorney yesterday. I mean, cussing up a storm. And I mean, I got that on recording, y'all. All right. Screaming and yelling and turning red and just the words that I said on screen yesterday, I'm not going to repeat them. I mean, I should have gotten my popcorn out for that one. I mean, I should have been eating my popcorn, watching her make a fool out of herself. I didn't even raise my voice really. I didn't have to. Today, one of my parents, I didn't have to raise my voice today either. But I'm very quick to talk and very quick to hold them accountable. And I don't have to raise my voice for that. But if you want to argue with me, I'm going to win that argument. And these are things not to be proud of, y'all. They're not. But, I guess in what I do it is, But yeah, I mean, call it what you want. And like I said to the attorney who said that to me, I said, you know what? And because I don't react. You can call me one name up there and down the other, and I'd still sit here. Doesn't bother me at all. And I'll tell you one thing, because I don't take things personally, number one. And number two, I don't give a shit what they think. So here's the thing, is somebody who acts like that has to like name call or say things like that, because I don't say anything about them. The only thing I tell them to do is be transparent. Don't lie. And don't, try to use that trickery and provide the child what's needed and appropriate. But when she said that, all I said back to her was, you know what? I don't care what it is you want to call what I do. At the end of the day, the kids get one hell of an IEP. And she didn't say nothing. That's all I care about. Call me what you want. I get the kids what they need. May take a hot minute, but they get what they need. So you want to call me argumentative or... No, I haven't been called argumentative. I've been called... What is it? It's always my tone or just a couple days ago, it was called combative, whatever the hell that is. I gotta look that word up. Combative. But I didn't flip my mind like the attorney did, that's for sure. But I definitely know I can be aggressive because I know I can. And I purposely do that. Because I will not put up with the bullshit at all. But Karen, you gotta tell me what this means, because I am not understanding that. But ADHD put on the IEP. I don't even understand what that means. So you gotta explain that one. But just know there's no such thing as educational and medical autism. It is a diagnosis. Okay, the school cannot diagnose. The school cannot say you have autism. They can't. Now they'll do their little checklist shit and, oh yeah, the child qualifies under autism. Tell me one time. I'm sure it's happened one time, but it's not likely. I'm sure it's happened one time in this day and age, but it's not likely that a school would say that your child's category should be autism, but they've never been diagnosed with it. That is very unlikely. Very unlikely. I don't even know what combative means. Maybe I should look it up. Hold on. Combative. Okay. Ready or eager to fight. Okay. That's true. That's true. I'd have to say yes to that. A definition of combative is a person who likes to fight or argue. An example of combative is a person who likes to debate about everything. I do. An example of combative is someone who picks fights with strangers. That I don't do. So it says eager or disposed to fight, fond of fighting or struggling. A person who likes to fight or argue. So the only thing I can agree with is that his combative style leads to many arguments, as an example. Then I would have to say yes, to be 100% transparent. His combative disposition led him into numerous difficulties, blah, blah. But it works in my favor. So, I mean, I've never gotten in a fight in my life. Haven't done that. Like a physical fight. Do I like to debate? Hell yes. And will I hold someone accountable? Ask the right questions? Piss them off because they got to answer questions that are difficult and that they don't want to answer because parents are going to find out the truth. Oh, like I talked about yesterday, like pouring water in electric sockets. Mom would have never known that happened had I not asked the questions I did. And had I not persisted in getting them to talk. So how I look at it is it works in your favor. Or is there a place I can see what other impairments mean on the IEP?
Mom, I worked out a lot today.
I know, Mom hadn't done nothing yet.
Can I have a hug, please?
Mm-hmm.
Have a good night. See you tomorrow morning.
Okay. I always associate that with physical hitting. Oh, no, not done that. I mean, I will admit there's times that I want to beat the shit out of them through the camera. I will admit that. But I'm one that will just tell it how it is too. I think you guys know that. I mean, how many times come on, how many times have you sat in an IEP meeting and they've said something that's just horrifying and you're telling me you didn't want to like climb over that table? I mean, let's just talk real, okay? Real 411 mom talk, okay? But do we do it? No. But have we felt like doing it? Yes. But yeah, no. It's unfortunate. And what I think's funny is how they like that's why they gaslight you and things, is they like flip blame. When that meeting, I was a good girl. And that attorney lost her ever loving mind. And she's the one under what is it? Ethical codes and shit like that. Not me. She is. I'm acting as the parent. I can do whatever I want, however I want, say what I want, whenever I want. And they got to still keep their composure. That is a benefit of being an advocate, I have to say, is we do not have to adhere to that form of professionalism in an IEP meeting. Now, Is that the proper way to do it? Of course. But if we lose it, we're not under this professionalism rules and regulations and policies, or a board professionalism like an attorney is or somebody else, that has to uphold their ethical standards and whatever. Advocates don't have to do that. Advocates are standing in as the parent and are supporting the parent and are there as someone for the parent. Just like if you invited a friend, or if you invited your priest or your neighbor or your pastor or whoever you wanted, they could talk and say whatever they want. They're not held accountable for what they say. Now, one thing that I don't do is I will not make fun of or attack somebody ever personally. Like, you are this, you that, you know what I mean? That direct, attacking, if you will. I've not been caught attacking. But yeah. All right. So I will talk to you guys soon. I will be going live tomorrow with Q&A. All right, from the group. So I will probably just go live on the group with a Q&A. All right. So if you're not part of the group, join the group. I'm going to be going through the group because it's been quite some time now, and answer questions that I'm sure have, been responded to by other parents. But I will not be looking at those answers, and I will be answering them how I would normally answer them. And we will go from there. All right. So hopefully if you're on the group and you're watching this, I will be doing a Q&A tomorrow. All right. I'm trying to go live a little bit more, even though I am absolutely exhausted because I have been so busy. I mean, I literally, the rest of this month, I have an IEP every day, if not 2. So it is a lot. So I will have an opening come the middle of April, which is perfect because that's ESY time. So if you're interested, you're more than welcome to contact me. We'll set up a meeting, that sort of thing. But as far as the month of March, that is out. But you want to get in earlier so that you can get a spot. Okay? All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you tomorrow over on the group. I'll tell you about what time. Hang on. It will be I would say 1-ish. So plan on me going live around between 1 and 3. All right. I would say closer to 1. Or like 1:30 to 2:30. I'm putting it in my calendar now so that I keep my word. Okay. So more than likely it will be between 1 and 3, but it will either be like around a 1 and 2 or 1:30 to 2:30. Okay. So if you're not part of the group, go join the group, and I will be adding people tonight and tomorrow morning so that you all can be part of the Q&A. All right. I'll talk to you soon.